in terms of new allegations?
Well, I think what I just referenced, the reports had additional allegations. They had more information.
So you're saying the initial reports were 2 former wives accused him of violence, both physical and verbal abuse, was not sufficient for him to say that I think he's a man of honor?
There were a number of statements from, from the press secretary, from the chief of staff, from others that reflected the Rob Porter that, we've come to know working here for over a year, and the chief of staff for about the last 6 months. But the reports are troubling, and I think the statement from Wednesday night reflects the Rob Porter that we had seen in these news reports and some of these credible allegations.
So to be clear, what was so shocking that had changed? He said it was shocking. What was he referring to?
Yeah, I think the full nature of the allegations, particularly the images.
You said, then, just to answer one more thing, you talked about the fact that there weren't any concerns, you said, that could compromise national security or interfere with operations here at the White House. But we've spoken to one of Porter's ex-wives who told us that she warned the FBI that he could be susceptible to blackmail because of the allegations against him.
Well, again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the investigation itself. I think that's a question for the FBI and others. But this is not our process. This is the process the U.S. government uses across agencies and has existed over numerous administrations.
The president's reaction. How did the president? Just
Hang
the
on a
president
second.
talk?
Cecilia.
Raj, I just want to clarify what you're saying here.
Sure.
Are you saying that the chief of staff of this White House had no idea that Rob Porter's 2 ex-wives had domestic violence allegations against him when they made those claims to the FBI, that John Kelly did not know that? How is that possible the chief of staff did not know that?
Well, again, this is part of an ongoing investigation. We trust the background check process, and the chief of staff does not get detailed updates about what may or may not have been alleged. This is a process. It involves a thorough investigation, and as I went through the process, it involves looking at not just accusations, but denials.
Okay, one question. The White House had said yesterday that Porter's decision to leave was a personal one, that he wasn't pressured to do so. So would Rob Porter still be on the job today had he not decided to resign?
Well, Rob Porter was terminated yesterday, and his last day, his last day was yesterday. I know he came in earlier today to clear out his stuff.
But would he still be on the job? I mean, Sarah Sanders made it
Well,
very
he
clear.
offered his
wasn't pressured to
resignation,
do so.
and it was accepted. Jim.
Yes, so in terms of the Chief of Staff's handling of all this, no regrets?
Well, I think the second statement that he sent out reflected his thoughts, which is that these allegations are deeply troubling. They are shocking, and I think the first statement reflected, the Rob Porter that we have known.
But let me ask you if I could follow up on that, because as you were coming out here yesterday, or Sarah Sanders was coming out here yesterday, you were releasing a statement from Rob Porter saying that he took those photographs. That appears to be an acknowledgement that this abuse took place, that he helped document it. How can the White House Chief of Staff, how can the press secretary, how can this White House still be standing behind him when Mr. Porter appeared to be acknowledging that he had
I think
this
it's fair to say that we all could have done better over the last few hours or last few days in dealing with this situation. But this was a Rob Porter that I and many others have dealt with, that Sarah had dealt with, that other officials, including the Chief of Staff, had dealt with. And the emerging reports were not reflective of the individual who we had come to know.
And I'm just asking one other follow-up.
Jeff, we've got a few.
Raj, did the president know that Rob was working on a temporary clearance?
No, the president saw the news report on Tuesday night and was informed of the resignation on Wednesday. He was saddened by it. Saddened for all the individuals involved.
Over the last year, is that ever something that he was concerned about?
He was not informed about the
concerned
specifics regarding Rob Porter's security clearance.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the White House's reaction to comments made by former White House aide Amorosa on Celebrity Big Brother, where she said, quote, she is haunted by the president's tweets. She described the situation inside the White House as bad and said it is not going to be okay.
Not very seriously. Amorosa was fired 3 times on The Apprentice, and this was the 4th time we let her go. She had limited contact with the president while here. She has no contact now. Sorry. Francesca.
Thank you, Raj. I wanted to clear up a few things that you said today on this. So first you said that the president wasn't aware of Mr. Porter's security clearance status, but when was the president aware of the allegations of abuse?
On Tuesday night when there was a report issued.
And then secondly, you have said that Rob Porter was terminated twice in this briefing. Is the White House now saying that Mr. Porter was fired?
I just mean the process by which your employment status ends is termination.
And then the last thing on that is, you said that there are things that this White House could have done better with respect to this. Could you please detail that? What could the White House have done better?
Well, I mean, again, I'm not going to get into a TikTok and all these detailed specifics. I think a lot of individuals were involved with the White House response to this, myself included. I think a lot of us could have done better. Trey.
Thanks, Raj. Just clarifying on Francesca's point, and I have 2 questions for you. So Rob Porter was not fired by the Trump administration.
No, he resigned and we accepted his resignation.
Okay. And if I could follow up on, you said the president was saddened. You've spoken with the president about these allegations this morning. Can you give us a better idea about the concerns that the president had? This is a gentleman who was in the Oval Office, very close to the president, numerous times throughout the first year of this administration. What did the president specifically have to say about these allegations?
He was surprised. You know, he, like many of us, did not see that in Rob Porter, did not see what these allegations have brought forward. And so he was surprised by it, he was disheartened by it, and he was saddened by it. Noah.
Normally when you hire people, do you wait for the investigation to come back before hiring them? Is the burden of proof not on the people seeking the job to prove that they're qualified and don't have any skeletons in their closet? Or do they just get to come aboard and you wait and see if these what happens with the
process tends to be a little bit different with the White House because there's a lot of officials coming in with the new administration and a lot of individuals coming in having interim clearance.
And then also, what about women who don't have photographs? Do you trust their stories? Because a lot of times, you haven't been at the podium, but Sarah said that allegations weren't credible from other people. Do you need a photograph? And how should women feel if they don't have a photograph?
I don't think any standard applies. I just think that we do take allegations of misconduct, of domestic violence, other issues like that very seriously. We are very concerned about them. In this instance, in the case of Rob Porter, we relied on the background check investigative process. That process hadn't been completed, so we were relying on the information that we had. April.
Okay, Raj, 2 questions. I want to follow up on Noah. You say the president takes the issue of violence against women seriously.
Yes.
Why did this administration close the Violence Against Women office when he became president last year? He defunded it and everything, and also he shut down the Women and Girls office as well. And I have another question on.
I don't know specifically why those specific offices may have been closed, but look, I did talk to the president earlier today. He told me he was very saddened by these reports and by the information that he saw, by the images that he saw. We do take violence against women and these types of allegations very seriously. What's your second question?
The interim security clearance, does that allow Rob Porter to be able to touch, at the time when he was employed here, to be able to touch and see classified materials?
Yeah, it would, yes.
Raj,
Blake.
thank you. Raj, I want to take you back, raised to the reports of emails, or texts, between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. From the podium, Sarah has said that those texts are evidence of political bias. Now, everyone has opinions. So is the view of the administration that persons who are not fans of the president should not be allowed to investigate him? And also, can you point to any evidence other than the text messages that the investigation was conducted by people who were biased other than these texts? I mean, was there anything in the way the investigation has been conducted?
Yeah, look, you bring up an issue that the president and others have talked about within the administration about political bias at the FBI and Department of Justice. And this predates this investigation. There are a number of issues regarding how the Hillary Clinton email investigation was handled by the former FBI director and others in the FBI that have raised questions. When it comes to the text messages that you reference, that's not the considered judgment of the president or others, but it is the judgment of the special counsel who had him removed from the case because specifically citing political bias. So there are a number of issues. There's a Department of Justice Inspector General report that we've heard about that is going to look into this issue further.
Raj, is Vice President Pence or Ivanka Trump willing to meet with Kim Jong-un's sister while they're at the Olympics?
There's no meetings planned whatsoever.